Having yourselves a great day so far. My name is Jason Joseph. This is Play by Play with JJ. And if you're new to my channel, first of all, before we dive into things and talk about the Sixers and what didn't happen and what did happen today at the trade deadline, make sure that you make sure you subscribe if you want to, keep up with all the Sixers information that I have for you, whether it's news, whether it's play by play, or whether it's just other types of Sixers talk. Click the subscribe button, like the video, and turn the notification bell icon too, so that way you know when I upload. All right, let's get down to business and let's talk about today. Okay. Darryl Morey. I'm still actually pretty pissed off about last night. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I'm still actually kind of ticked off. I was really just trying to keep everything together, and I usually do whenever I do play-by-play stuff, but whenever I'm doing a podcast, right, I have a lot to say, and I feel like that there's a lot of things that I gotta get off my chest, and I just gotta talk about it. So I wanted to come on here, and I wanted to express my frustration, and I wanted you guys to be able to feel like you could express how you feel, whether you're happy about today, whether you're sad about today, or whether you just thought that today was just gonna be not much action and it's what you expected. So I want to hear what your thoughts are. But let's start off with the opening statement. I learned a lot last night about the Sixers. Yes, the Celtics were underhanded or were undermanned. Yes, they didn't have Jaylen Brown. They didn't have Al Horford. They didn't have Robert Williams. They didn't have Marcus Smart. And even though he played, Jason Tatum didn't perform well last night. And yet, what I saw with the team is the fact that they just felt like they could be able to shoot the basketball. I'm talking about the Celtics. The Celtics just felt like that they could just shoot the basketball from anywhere, and they had these wide open looks from three. Okay, yes, Blake Griffin got hot. If you dare him to shoot a three, okay. Will he make them? I don't know if he's going to ever make them at that type of a rate again, but you're leaving guys wide open and you're double teaming Jason Tatum. You got to change the game plan, Doc. You got to do that. You got to literally set your rotations. Okay, you're double teaming Tatum, but Tatum has guys that are wide open. They're exposing the Sixers with the pick and roll and all that type of stuff. And this just has to stop. We don't have the bodies that we should. Part of it is the roster construction, but also part of it just came down to coaching too. And it was just such a frustrating game to watch from, just a fan perspective because you just felt like that this team is just better than who they are. And yet we see the same mistakes. We see the same mistakes when it comes to the second rotations and when it comes to, you know, not gelling with the starters and all that type of stuff. And it's gotten to the point where it's just become like a what the heck type of a thing. And I bring that up because I wanted to kind of tie this into today because I'm really not happy with how Darryl Morey has attacked things. And I understand that we still have a buyout market. Don't know who's available for that. But you get Jalen McDaniels. Okay, so let's break this down. It's a 3-team trade between the Blazers, the Hornets, and the Sixers. So the Blazers got Matisse Thybulle. Okay, they got a perimeter player who they feel like can get better from shooting from three, but they got their guy. They needed somebody that could just guard the perimeter for them and be that type of like a spark plug, if you will, off their bench. He wasn't going to get the playing time here because he was averaging about 10 minutes or less per game, and he just wasn't going to get that type of a deal. That's what happened, and so the Blazers got him. The Hornets, they got a couple of second-round picks, and they got I don't even know how to say his name. Mikhailyuk. I don't even know how to say his name. I've honestly never watched him before. But that's who the Hornets got. And the Sixers got Jalen McDaniels. Jalen is not a bad player by any means. You gave up Matisse Thybulle. Okay. The problem that I have with this, is that, okay, he's in a slump shooting wise. We need shooters. I hope he improves with his 3-point shooting because I wanted a 3-and-D guy. I wanted somebody like Mikal Bridges. I expected Darryl to somehow get Seth Curry, and I really would have liked him to try to get Mikal Bridges after he got traded to the Nets. That would have been a steal. That would have been amazing. But they couldn't do it. They couldn't pull the trigger. I don't know if Darryl Morey's having a press conference or not, but I'm just tired of being a second-round exit, man. That's really what this comes down to. It's been 4 years since we've even made it out of the first round. Or sorry, the second round. Why? Well, I'm like, man, we haven't made it to the Eastern Conference Finals in over 20 years. I'm frustrated. Okay, some of it is just boiled up frustration. But I just expected, with the way that the team is constructed right now, I don't know if they can get out of the East. I don't think that they can. Being honest. They could. They could definitely prove me wrong, and obviously things can happen. But I just don't think that they have that. I don't think that they have the perfect type of roster construction. Okay, so no roster construction's perfect, but if they just would have added, a wing, an actual wing that can catch and shoot, that can also play really good perimeter defense, that's athletic, and somebody that could also shoot and play with the second unit, I think that they would have been a lot better. I also wanted a backup center. Maybe that could happen in the buyout market. I don't know. But how the Sixers get by when Joel is not on the court, that matters. That really, really matters. Do you guys remember when we had Mike Scott starting at the 5? Do you guys remember when we had DeAndre Jordan starting at the 5 too, whenever Joel wasn't playing? Do you remember Al Horford? How about Dwight Howard? We need a backup center that's serviceable. Andre Drummond was that guy last year. But you had to do what you had to do to go get James Harden because they needed another superstar. They did. But now they need a backup. That actually does matter. Because when everybody on the bench is like minus 12, minus 14, okay, and you have somebody that can only get you rebounds, but isn't a good presence down low in the post and can't really play defense and gets beaten up so many times, it's just frustrating. It's annoying. I'm tired. I want to be able to compete with Boston and Milwaukee. The East is now wide open because the Nets got rid of KD. They got rid of Kyrie. And I just want to get over that hump. It took a lucky bounce for Kawhi to make that shot. That wasn't the only reason why Toronto won that series a couple of years ago when the Sixers did have Jimmy Butler. But Joel just needs guys that are just surrounded by him, that are just willing to shoot, that are dogs. D'Anthony Melton is that. Okay, I give you that. As soon as the Daniel House trade happened during the offseason, I knew. My boss even told me, I got to give him a shout out. My boss at the warehouse I used to work at told me that he doesn't know if it's going to work out. And it didn't. I was a little bit more optimistic, but I was wrong. And so I'm just really frustrated. That's just really what it comes down to. This is just boiled up frustration because it just starts with getting everybody on the team that, is the foundation, getting them all the right surrounding pieces. And they just haven't figured it out. And I expected Darryl to go out today with an aggressive game plan. I totally thought that he was going to be able to come out and he was going to be able to get something done to really help this team, boost their playoff chances. And last night was just a clear reminder that the Celtics, who were undermanned, by the way, were able to just out-rebound you. They were able to outshoot you. And they were able to outplay you. They had 9 guys. They had 9 guys. Really, they had 8. Sixers was really trying versus the Celtics. It's clear Celtics are clearly better with a wide margin. Yeah, dude, honestly, you're totally right. You're absolutely right. The Celtics are just, as of right now, the Celtics are just the better team. And Jason Tatum didn't even have a good night last night. He had a poor night. And the game plan for the Sixers from Doc Rivers, which I respect. I respect the game plan of double teaming Jason Tatum. But when the shooters, when Grant Williams, when freaking Hauser, I didn't even know who Hauser was before this game, when he's making 3 threes, you got to change the game plan, man. That's what has to happen. Where is the adjustments? Where's the play calling? Where's the ball movement? I didn't see it. I didn't see it last night. And it was just really frustrating. And it just reminded me, even coming into today, that the Sixers needed some more pieces. They needed the 3-and-D guy. They needed another shooter. And they needed another backup center. Of course, things are going to be available in the buyout market. I just don't know exactly what it is. I'm praying that Jalen can become a better three-point shooter because he's been in such a slump, man. His three-point shooting has been his career low this season. He's shooting 35%. That's not a 3-and-D type of a guy that I want on my team. That's just how it is, man. And we still have Montrezl Harrell. We still have Paul Reed. We're basically getting a Matisse Thybulle 2.0, who's just a little bit of a better shooter. Now, to be devil's advocate here, I also bet you that because Joel and James Harden are going to get double teamed more, maybe that's going to create more space for him. And maybe he'll be able to cash in more threes. I don't know. But I have to kind of look at it from that perspective too. I'm starting to doubt Maxey and his true potential. Maybe he's just having a bad few games, but now I do worry. I'm ready to pull the plug with having Maxey come off the bench. I'm ready to pull that plug. Okay. I was really happy when James Harden came last year. One of the reasons why I really enjoyed James Harden coming is because I really thought that him and Tyrese Maxey would gel together. Okay, Tyrese Maxey's not a point guard. Okay, he can't necessarily lead the second unit in scoring. He needs to have some pressure taken off of him. He needs other guys that are going to create space, like James Harden, a good facilitator that can get him some looks. And then his confidence will go up. That's the thing. His confidence has to go up, and Doc, for some reason, really does like him coming off the bench. I was okay with him trying it for a little bit. It has to stop now. It has to stop. He needs to be out there with the starters. And D'Anthony Melton, who's playing really well, by the way, he needs to come off the bench. That's how it has to be. I don't understand, like what the love is right now with Maxey coming off the bench because he just hasn't been playing well. And you have to boost up his confidence. He can totally make shots, and he's just a little bit off because he's just trying to find a new role. And that's just not what he does. That's not his specialty. You got to get him back into the starting lineup. Yeah, I appreciate you with that comment. The funny thing about today is that Furkan, who requested to be traded, didn't get traded at all. Furkan really thinks he has that much leverage to say to an organization that I want out. He thinks that he's a superstar himself, which is just so funny. It's just laughable. If he's not making the shots, he's a liability. That's what it comes down to. He can't really play good defense. Furkan Korkmaz, the Turkish delight. Oh, man. And I like Furkan, as a guy, but, as a basketball player, dude, you're not you're not Joel Embiid. You're not James Harden, man. But that's the funny part about today. Yeah, Harden needs to get Maxey more open buckets. Yeah, dude. Doc has to play him in the starting lineup. That's exactly what has to happen. And Maxey was trying to get used to his role. I give him credit for trying to adjust. But I'm sure his confidence went down because, Doc told him, okay, I want you to come off the bench, but you're still going to get starting minutes. You just have to lead that second unit in scoring. And Doc really does believe that he can be a point guard. And I'm sorry, that's just not his specialty. It's not. He needs to be with James Harden. And of course, he can handle the ball at times, but he can't be your true number one point guard because that's not what he was in college. That's not what he was at Kentucky. I've watched all his games, and yet he did play off the ball a little bit more. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of Brett Brown in some ways because of the whole Ben Simmons thing. Ben Simmons was not a point guard, and yet he came into the league as a point guard, and that wasn't his true position. So, but tying this all back together into a bow with the trade deadline for today, man, I'm just very disappointed. And I thought, I still say that I trust in Darryl Morey because he got James Harden, because he was able to get the pick back, and he was able to somehow, some way. First of all, when he traded Al Horford and he got rid of that horrific contract, he got back Danny Green and Seth Curry. Okay, that was a winning move. That was a good move right there. And then he gets James Harden and trades him for Ben Simmons. That was a good move too. Today, he struck out. He failed. He didn't help the team get better. He did it maybe so slightly, but it doesn't move the needle. It does not move the needle, and it's just really aggravating to me that we're in this spot right now. I don't like just being good. I want to be a contender. I want to go to the Eastern Conference Finals, man. Is that really hard to ask? Pain. Absolute pain. It's really hard to trade for Tobias Harris for someone good. Yeah, I wasn't expecting them to trade Toby, man. I wasn't expecting that at all. But actually, Toby, even though he played awful last night, forget about the contract. He's actually been thriving in his role. He's been playing really good defense. He's been shooting the ball a lot better. And this team isn't where they are without him. So That wasn't going to move the needle. Mikal Bridges and Seth Curry would have. Is there a chance that Seth Curry gets let go? Maybe. Maybe Darryl knows something more than we do. But as of trade deadline day, if I were to give him a grade from an A to F schedule, I'm going as far to give him an F. And maybe it's because I'm, being a little bit emotional. Maybe it's because I'm still a little bit mad over last night and just where the team is right now and Doc Rivers and all that stuff. But I have to give him an F. I didn't think he did what he had to do. And it's just so frustrating. I can't stress it enough. I'm actually really aggravated by it. But there was one other thing I wanted to bring up too. And that is the fact that I thought that maybe we could get something for Shake Milton. This dude's on an expiring contract, and yet he's probably going to walk. He had value. I would have liked to get another, shooter for him. Somebody that could actually fit better with the team. Because if Shake Milton was on a team that needed him as like a backup point guard, I'm going to tell you right now, or a starting point guard, he could do it. Because I've seen him start, and I've seen him make such a big impact when he has the ball. When he's confident, when he is able to just go to the rack, he can do a lot. But not with the role he's in right now. Perhaps the Sixers will wake up after the Eagles win the Super Bowl. Yeah, the only thing that we can hope for right now is that this team continues to gel. I will say that I did admit that I didn't want the Sixers to make. I didn't say that I didn't want them to make a move at the trade deadline. I want to clarify. I want to say that I didn't want them to make a big splash because I've seen what's happened over the last 3 years. We got Jimmy Butler. Guess what? The team chemistry, it took them a little bit of time, and they didn't have as many games to figure it out. Okay? James Harden went to the Brooklyn Nets a couple of years ago. They couldn't figure it out with him. It took a little bit of time for them to just adjust and have a little bit of chemistry with each other. They didn't even get that last year. That's why James Harden wanted out. He wasn't getting the chemistry and the amount of reps with the big three, quote unquote, with that ball club. You have to have time to gel when you get a superstar type of a player. But with a role player, with somebody that can just be a spark plug off the bench or just be a catch and shoot type of a person, that's what we needed. That's what we needed. And we didn't get it. Darryl Morey took an L today. And now we just got to pray that this team somehow just gels together and they somehow are just able to play better defense on the perimeter, even though they lost a good perimeter defensive player in Matisse Thybulle, who was in jail by Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers just didn't want to play him. I understand he struggled as a shooter, but there are times where you need somebody to come in just for defensive purposes, just to get stops, and he wouldn't even do that. This man is so stubborn. And it goes back to just when Ben Simmons was missing his foul shots against the Hawks. That's how far this roots back. That's how far this whole Doc Rivers thing roots back to. It's the fact that when he just didn't make those adjustments, I'm talking about from the Sixers' sake. When he didn't make those adjustments and take Ben Simmons out of the game in Game 5, and they blew that 26-point lead, and he attacked the media like he did. That's where the whole Doc Rivers thing stems from the Sixers standpoint. But now I also see that this guy loves to play Montrezl Harrell and thinks that he's like a Hall of Famer. He doesn't want to play Paul Reed. He didn't want to go on a Paul Reed tour last year. And guess what? Paul Reed, at least if you play him in last night's game, and if you take Montrezl Harrell out in that fourth quarter, maybe that could have helped. At least try. Can't you just try? You got to change something up. What's up, Mitch? How you doing, man? What's going on, dude? We're just talking about our thoughts on the trade deadline. If you guys have any thoughts about today or just about where this team is going and what your concerns are, or if you have, expectations, I want to hear from you guys. Comment down below. Let me know what you guys think, because I think it's really important that we just express our frustration on this, because it has been disappointing. And I don't think that we're going to be satisfied as a community until they win that second round, whether that's fair or not. Last night was just a reminder that the Sixers just got outplayed and that they need more pieces. Harden is being passive. He needs to attack more. Maxey is having an off night, like 17-18. You like the trade, didn't do more, waiting for the buyout market. Look, Mitch, it got them better, but this guy's been struggling from three. I understand that he's going to get more looks, but I just expected them to get a better role player. I'm hoping that he proves me wrong. I really do hope so. Maybe coming to the Wells Fargo Center will be a good thing for him. Maybe that could, provide some sort of a spark. I have to see him play, but can he fit with Joel and Harden? And not only that, is he going to be in the starting lineup over PJ Tucker? That's another question I have. I have every right to ask those questions. I just don't know if this moves the needle for them. You didn't need to get a star caliber player. It's not what I wanted. I wanted somebody that could just fit with this team and gel. But I have to wait and see. I don't know who's available on the buyout market. Let's actually look up his stats really quickly, because let's put that into perspective and let's look at what he's done over his last 10 games. Okay, so give me a second. Okay, so let's pull up his stats. Jalen uh, Jalen McDaniels. Stats for game log. We traded a guy who wasn't going to play in the playoffs for a guy who can give us 8 to 12 per night and have the ability to give us 20 plus on a good night. Are you talking about like 20 plus minutes or like 20 plus points? I don't know if he can get you 20 points. If you're talking about minutes, yeah, he's going to get you 20 minutes at least. But he's averaging about 10 points per game. Okay, he was so let's look at his game log, right? He was 0 for 2 from 3 in his last game, but he had 6 points, he had 3 rebounds, and he played in 17 minutes. Okay. I'm looking at the 3-point shooting, because this team needs 3-point shooting along with the defense. He was 1 for 4 from 3 in the game before that. Then 1 for 2, 0 for 3, 3 for 7, 0 for 5, 0 for 1, 1 for 5, 0 for 2, 1 for 4. The last time he made at least one 3-pointer in a game was on January 16th. Okay. And that was the game where he got you 26 points. He had a hot hand that night. He got you 10 rebounds. Okay, he's a good rebounder. This team does need rebounders, and he can get you boards. But my problem is, and yeah, he's 25 years old. I just want size. I just want good 3-point shooters. We need to trade Harris and Harrell. Harrell has to go, dude. Montrezl Harrell has to go. Okay. That's just that. He can't guard me. Like, I saw him struggle yesterday, and he just had so many issues with just guarding even freaking what the heck's his name? The guy that made like 3 threes, Hauser. He had a hard time guarding Hauser. Hauser literally had a shot where he was just wide open from 3, and Montrezl Harrell's just standing there, and he's just like, "I'm just gonna let you take that. I'm not even gonna step up on you," and he drained it. How does this happen? How? Ay, ay, ay. Nobody on Charlotte command a double team on the Sixers. He can get wide open shots. Tobias can't hit. Yeah, okay, I want to see him get wide open looks, and I'm sure he can knock those down. I have to see it. This is just my initial reaction. He can prove me wrong. And if he proves me wrong, I tip my cap to him. But this is just my initial reaction. He's a really good defender. I give you that. Okay, he got 3 steals in his last game, along with a block. Then he had 1 steal, but then he had 4 steals. Okay, this dude can play really solid defense. He's also a pretty good perimeter defensive player, too. And the Sixers did need that. Montrez has bad knees. You're not kidding, man. You're not kidding, bro. But yeah, Doc Rivers literally thinks he's a Hall of Famer. It just throughout this whole time, I'm just still thinking like Furkan Korkmaz in my head. Like I still have him in my head. Like I'm sure that when he scored those 42 points in an NBA summer league game, he thought that he had arrived and that he was going to be like the next superstar. And he thinks of himself literally as that. And yet he just wants out of this organization. Requests a trade. Oh man. Ugh, Furkan Korkmaz. Remember when Brett Brown called him a 3-point specialist? I don't miss Brett Brown, dude. I don't miss him at all whatsoever. Okay, well, look, we have a couple of games coming up. We have to take care of business against the Knicks, okay? This is where we transition and we talk about the future of this team. This team really just has to be aggressive on the glass, okay? How teams are figuring them out right now, the Sixers' kryptonite when I watch them play is that they can get out rebounded by bigger people that are more physical. They also can't guard the perimeter, and they have to do a much better job in that department. If I see Hauser or Blake Griffin getting wide open looks like last night, if I ever see that again, I'm going to be frustrated. And I won't express that like during my play-by-play. You know, I won't like totally go all out on my frustration. But I'm going to be ticked. And I'll probably come on here for a post-game pod and I'll probably express how awful that was. Because I'm not afraid to criticize what I don't see. I give them praise for what I do see, especially on that night. That's what happens. Korkmaz is the definition of a 14th man. Dude. Can you just imagine, like, if he was on the Boston Celtics, he's not even in their rotation. He's not. It's just how it is. Trade Springer and Harrell for Kelly Oubre. I wouldn't be opposed to that. He still is a pretty good defender at his age. We just need somebody. As soon as Joel goes out in the playoff game, okay? This team is, even during the regular season games, like I see it right now. When he goes out, there is such a huge drop-off. Okay? And it actually does matter. those minutes, those 8 minutes in the playoff game, if you're up by 12 points and all of a sudden he goes out and now it's a tie game, that changes everything. That changes literally everything, and that's not Doc's fault. What I do fault Doc with is the fact that he doesn't play Paul Reed enough. And the other night, I forget, it wasn't against the Celtics. It might have been against the Knicks. I think it was against the Knicks, where he finally just said, you know what? I'm going to take Montrez out. I'm going to put Paul Reed in for 50 seconds. For 50 seconds. And then I'm going to put Joel back in. He's not getting time. Our bench has to step up. Maxey will be better. I think the All-Star break will be good for him. I do too. I think that it'll be a really good thing for him, but I want to see him back in the starting lineup, man. I really just do. I love to see him back in the starting lineup. And that's the frustrating thing. I just, like, all of this just boils down to I don't want us to be another second round exit. That's what it comes down to. The fact that we just get stuck in the same position over and over and over again. It's like the Phillies, okay? When this team, they would have like a really good August. You know, they'd have a really good July. And then September comes and they had a big collapse. And actually this year they had a collapse again. But they got lucky this year because the Milwaukee Brewers gave it to them and literally said, you know what? We're not going to take your offer. We're not going to take that 6th seed. We're going to blow a 4-point lead or a 4-run lead. It's not basketball. A 4-run lead in the top of the 9th inning. We're going to have a couple of errors by Christian Yelich, and we're just going to give it to you. And the fact that the Phillies just got in that way and they literally just bat themselves into the playoffs, they got lucky in that regard. But we're not talking about the Phillies. I'm comparing them because they would have these collapses and it would be the same thing over and over again. They get stuck in the same spot. Okay, they'd have a great July, a good August, and then September comes and then they just collapse and then they're out of the playoffs. That's exactly what happens, except this year they finally made it. And the Sixers, they just keep getting stuck in that second round. Trade Harris, Montrez, and Jaden for John Collins and Clint Capella. In the offseason, I mean, obviously you can't do it now. I would like Clint Capella. I think he would be good again. Or it would be good again to have him and James Harden. Anything over Montrezl Harrell right now defensively, and like, don't get me wrong, I love Montrezl Harrell. I think he's an awesome player. I think he does provide a spark, you know, at points. But you just can't play him and get exposed and just keep up with that. And then sit Joel for 8 minutes in between the first and the second quarter. You can't do that, Doc. Put Paul Reed in. Try something new. At least try. That's all I ask. Okay. There was one. Oh yeah. Tying this whole thing back with Doc Rivers too. Now I understand why the Clippers ended up getting rid of him. I see it. I told my dad the other night that when Denver came back from that 3-1 lead, this dude literally stuck with his lineup, and he was also, it's the same thing that's going on here. Stubborn with the rotations, okay, not making the best calls, right? It would have double-digit leads going into the fourth quarter. And yet Montrezl Harrell would get cooked by Nikola Jokic. And just like when Joel went out the other day against Denver, Jokic was just like, this is easy now. This is easy money. And I'm going to just go to the basket, and that's what's going to happen. Frustrating stuff. And I'm just praying that somehow this talent outplays other talent, right? There's a reason why the Raptors lost to the Sixers last year because the Sixers were the better team. They just got exposed because Doc Rivers didn't have the best game plans against Spoelstra and the Miami Heat. And Joel was hurt. But regardless of Joel being hurt, Miami was still the better team. If Joel Embiid and Harden is healthy in the playoffs, I will be surprised if we get bounced in the second round. Only had one playoff run where he was healthy. That was the bubble year. You're right in that regard. I just know that teams are going to get more physical with Joel. And I need them to be healthy, of course, like that. It comes down to that. But if we just need a bucket at the end of the game, and it's a close game, do you really trust Doc to call the plays? I don't. What does he prove to you that he could do that? Because that stuff matters. It matters. It matters so much. Sixers lost to the Celtics backups. I know, don't remind me, man. Lakers traded Pat Bev for Mo Bamba. Yeah, I saw that too. Alrighty, guys. I think we're going to shut things down. I think that the message was clear. All we have to do now is just pray that things do get better and that they do get some other pieces in the buyout market. They got to go for the backup center first. And I'd like to see them get another shooter. All right, we'll have to wait and see what happens. Feel free to join me on Friday night and Saturday night because we're going to be covering the Sixers. We're going to be doing play-by-play because that's what this channel is all about. Play-by-play with JJ. My name is Jason Joseph. I'm from South Jersey, and we do play-by-play here, but we're also going to be implementing more podcasts as well because I really want to get your opinion on things with this team, with the franchise, and with where they're headed. So we're going to continue to do this more often, especially once the NFL season's done, because then I'll be done at NFL Films, and we're going to be on here more, producing more content. I love you all so much. Okay, if you're new to my channel, be sure to head on over to my YouTube page if you haven't done so already. Feel free to like this video, subscribe to the channel where I give you more Sixers content. I also provide Patriots play-by-play and the Phillies play-by-play as well. We're also going to be doing one Flyers game per week after the Super Bowl. So we're going to be doing a little bit more of that, and we'll be talking about them in the coming days. I love you all so much, and I will catch you all on Friday night at 7 o'clock p.m. as the Sixers are back home and they take on the Knicks. See you guys then.